Hello, everybody. I'm Jillian Sakovits, and a very warm welcome to Full-Time Review. It is presented by Amazon Prime. What a show we have for you today. We are going to kick off today's show with Bay FC's record-breaking attendance at Oracle Park in San Francisco, and our North Cal resident reporter, Tamerra Griffin, was in the house to take us inside these historic scenes. Hello, Tamerra.
Hello.
What does this mean for the NWSL to break its own attendance record again this year?
It does sort of seem like this is sort of the new competition within a competition. Like next season, you already know teams are like, okay, how can we break the record that Bay FC just broke? The same way that Bay were probably thinking, how can we break the record that Chicago broke in the game that they participated in last season at Wrigley Field? And I really think that this is just becoming the norm. I mean, there's a whole separate conversation that I know we're going to touch on about the choice of venue for breaking these attendance records, but it's huge. I think as a lot of teams are beginning to think about the 2031 World Cup and what it might mean to maybe put in a bid to be a host city, which I know Bay FC is very interested in, as are the Washington Spirit. These all are like, they serve multiple purposes, multiple proofs of concept, both for teams like Bay FC, who are still sort of looking for their next home, which probably is ideally going to be a permanent home after PayPal Park. They said that they're going to be there for the foreseeable future, but we know that that can't last forever. And it shows how viable the draw is, not just for women's sports, but women's soccer specifically. And as a Bay Area native, I will also add that the Bay Area is vast, okay? PayPal Park is a very far drive for people even who live within the Bay Area, much less places in other regions like Sacramento, Southern California, further north. So
it is at the San Jose airport, basically.
It's basically
that's where you gotta go.
Exactly. And it is cool to watch planes landing while you're watching the game, but
Lovely.
It's a trek for some people. And so it also meant something for the Bay Area to be able to enjoy this game in the center, in the heart of the Bay Area in San Francisco. And I know it's a baseball park. That was also my first time at Oracle Park because I'm not a baseball girly. But you want to talk about stunning stadiums? I don't think that they would have been able to play a game that big in a more beautiful place.
So take me inside the stadium. What were some of the things that you saw? What stood out to you at Oracle Park?
So after I got over the beauty,
what made it so beautiful?
So it hugs the waterfront facing the bay. So from where I was sitting in the press box and a lot of the different vantage points within the stadium, you're looking at the water. You can see Oakland. It was a clear day. You can see the Bay Bridge depending on where you are on the concourse. In the Bay Area and across California, we are so spoiled when it comes to weather. It was like a breezy but warm 65 that in my opinion felt more like a 70, little bit of breeze. Like it's just where you would want to spend a Saturday afternoon, no matter what you're doing. So I think for a lot of neutrals, it was sort of like, oh, let's just go hang out at the ballpark, eat some delicious food because Oracle Park is also known for the food, and enjoy some soccer on the side. And of course, Bay FC fans, they're thinking about it in the reverse, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful location, beautiful setting. And I have been to some big soccer games, but it's different when there are 40,000 plus people milling around, queuing in these long lines to get Bay FC merchandise. They had this pinstriped Bay FC like baseball shirt that kind of went viral. It felt like within the stadium, everyone had one, and also nobody could find one.
So it's funny. I saw that watching, and I thought, hold up, did everyone buy these today, or have I missed this? Because
I'm
liked
still reporting
them.
On it. Stay tuned because
Okay.
I need to get to the bottom of that myself.
And you need to get just a few for the staff.
Right. No, but the vibes and the environment were incredible. I saw people milling around the stadium as early as 10 a.m. Kickoff was not until 1 p.m. And I'm sure the stadium wasn't open that early. People were ready for this. You could tell that they planned their whole day, if not their whole weekend around it. San Francisco is, in my biased opinion, one of the best cities in the world. And so the fact that the game still ended with enough time for people to have like a proper evening in San Francisco, I think also sort of added to the excitement around this. And like I said, as a Northern California native, there is a lot of pride that I take separate from my, journalistic neutrality in being able to have like my home area host this game. And that's all before we get to the soccer itself.
Talk to me about the soccer, Tamerra.
So it didn't go Bay's way. And I know we've had talks about rivalries. I'm not going to force a rivalry between Bay FC and Washington Spirit, but I will say these teams have like certifiable history. Some might even say beef. I'm thinking of the very first time they played each other at Audi Field. Corey Bethune scored like a last-minute game winner to break Bay FC hearts. Of course, the two met again at the end of last season in the quarterfinals. Again, unfortunate result for Bay. They have been one of the thorns in this team's, no pun intended, side, pretty much since Bay FC, entered their existence in the NWSL. And so I knew going into the game that it was going to be tight, as it tends to be when these two teams meet. I also was thinking that because the Washington Spirit had quite a busy week leading up to this game, they were in San Salvador in the middle of the week playing in the CONCACAF W Champions Cup and had a lot of travel to deal with, a lot of, tired legs. But they are aided by the fact that they have a lot more of a healthy roster than they have tended to have in the past, which allowed head coach Adrian Gonzalez to make some pretty heavy rotations between that midweek game and this one, which included the fact that Trinity Rodman played 78 minutes in that game against Bay, the most that she's played all season as she's come back from that back injury that took her out for several months. So anytime Trinity's playing the majority of a 90-minute game, you've already got problems. But that's in addition to the fact that Corey Bethune, who was also out for most of last season, is getting her touch back. She scored a fantastic goal against Bay. They put 3 away against Bay unanswered in the first half. And had it not been for Rachel Kunenanji's goal right before halftime,
it was pretty nice.
It was so nice and so great for her. I mean, she has been at the top of the league in terms of shots taken, hasn't had too many goals to her name. So I think both in terms of the vibes within the stadium, which were starting to get a little sad when Bay was down 3-0 and it wasn't even halftime. So Rachel's goal was, again, multi-purpose, both for her as a player, as a striker. You know how important it is to put a ball in the back of the net when you've had a bit of a drought, and for the environment that day. And you could tell that it carried over into the second half because Bay scored pretty early, also into the second half. Unfortunately, weren't able to equalize it and make it 3-3. But I think just from, again, panning out a bit and thinking about this game from an entertainment perspective, from the perspective of neutrals, many of whom I know were at that stadium, goals are the most entertaining like value add that you can put into a game. So 5 goals in 90 minutes at the end of the day, it's hard to be greedier and ask for more, but unfortunately, it resulted in a loss for Bay.
Yeah, the final score 3-2 between the Washington Spirit and Bay FC. I want to go back to Oracle Park for a moment because we've seen now Wrigley Field was the site for last year's record-breaking attendance in a little over 35,000. Now Oracle Park in San Fran. I have like my wish list of where I'd like to see the next NWSL game played. The Coliseum in LA comes to mind. Arrowhead in Kansas City, that's another one that comes to mind. But there are negatives anytime you don't play a game in what is a stadium or an arena that is outfitted to you. We see it, our producer Theo pointed out, we see it all the time in the NCAA tournament when the Final Four is put in NRG Stadium, for example, and then they put a basketball court in a place that holds like double the capacity of a typical NBA stadium. We see it at times with New York City FC playing at Yankee Stadium, their home, until they build a stadium in a few years in Queens. What were some of the negatives, perhaps, that you saw from a press point of view in watching it? And you see this anytime you put a rectangle inside of a ballpark, that it feels a little bit at times like an optical illusion. Did you talk to any of the players about maybe how shocking that was, or any of the negatives of this game that there's so much to be celebrated around?
Totally. And I will say, when players and coaches were asked about this, they were all very positive. I remember Albertine Montoya, head coach of BSC, specifically saying that he thought the pitch was fantastic. And to be fair, I think given the magnitude of the moment, it they would probably be hard pressed to be brutally honest if that in fact was not
sure,
their genuine
but like,
opinion.
come on, coach, put your tactical hat on
right.
and really
so
talk to us.
I will share my opinion of how I thought
Yes,
it went
please.
down. I can't speak to the quality of the pitch because I wasn't able to actually touch grass, so to speak. But just from a visual standpoint, anytime you're playing a soccer game on a baseball field, I think optical illusion is the perfect way to describe the adjustments that your eye has to make in order to like follow the football. Positives, I think the groundskeeping staff did a great job of erasing all of the baseball lines on the field because
even
that's
on
not
TV.
something that we can, and I'm sure that you've seen games where that was not the case. So I think in terms of the visuals, the lines, I don't think we needed to worry about players getting confused about, you know, seeing an infield line or, sorry, I don't know baseball terms. You know what I mean?
The diamond, yes.
The diamond.
The diamond was not utterly present.
It wasn't a diamond inside of that field, not visible. What was tricky for me as a member of the press, when I go to games, I'm used to the press box being on the same side of the pitch as the teams. And so being a little bit closer to the bench, being able to see the coach's body language. In this case, the press box was sort of located above one of the corner flags, and both teams were on the opposite side of the field. So I actually know I had to like really focus and look at, okay, what is Adrian's, you know, body language like now that Bay have scored 2 and they're only up a goal? What is Albertine's like? You know, who might be coming on and getting warmed up to be subbed on next? That I didn't have as easy access to as I typically do.
Yes.
And one thing that was sort of cut across players and coaches when they were asked about the atmosphere of the game, everybody talked about how loud it was in there, which is interesting considering that Oracle Park has like one whole plane open to that waterfront that I was talking about, which is of course gorgeous.
Yeah, McCovey Cove.
Thank you. Again, first time. So I'm still learning the terminology.
I'm going to give you a really, really quick little Jill lesson. One of my first jobs out of college was cutting baseball highlights overnight for MLB.com.
Oh my God.
In the depths of the Chelsea market. In Chelsea, in the city. Yes.
I can't wait for your memoir.
And the curse, and I'm being very open, the curse was to get a West Coast game because that means your shift started at like 10 o'clock Eastern and you were probably there till 4, 6 o'clock in the morning. But the amazing part was, and baseball fans know this, that people kayak there waiting to catch like a home run. It's so fun and beautiful. So like I would have loved like some type of halftime game that's like punting soccer balls into McCovey Cove for the kayakers. But anyway, that I digress. But
no,
I would have liked to have seen
digression.
some baseball soccer crossover fun there.
Yeah, and the thing is, the field was sort of as far away from McCovey Cove as you could get, given where they had to place it. So, I mean, it still would have made for like a fun contest, but you would have needed like a field goal kicker, someone who was a football,
or like the t-shirt bomb things.
Something like that would have
happen.
worked.
Yeah.
So I think those were, and going back to the sound, it's interesting to think. So PayPal Park has maximum capacity of 18,000 people. Bay FC has sold out a few times in that venue. This, of course, was 40,000 plus, all screaming. And it's sort of that math equation of how much louder does 40,000 people with one sort of open plane sound compared to 18,000 people who are packed inside of a stadium. I definitely felt a difference. And I know the players were talking about the adjustments that they actually had to make given how loud it was in the stadium. I think Kate Wiesner of the Washington Spirit, who also scored a goal in that game, talked about how before the game, the players were sort of like, okay, we need to rely more on nonverbal cues on this field in order to make up for the fact that we're not going to be able to hear each other the way that we normally can. Even at Audi, which is, I think, maximum capacity 20,000. So even for the Spirit, who also regularly sell out Audi Field, this was like 2 Audis, and they're all rooting against you.
2 rowdy Audis.
2 rowdy Audis. Rowdy Audi squared. So there were some differences for sure. I think this will also add another sort of layer to the debate around the suitability of and feasibility of playing soccer games on baseball fields. But I think in terms of the atmosphere that fans were able to create, given how many more people were allowed to fit into that stadium, that feels like less of a debate. It's very much like proven if you build it, they will come sort of thing.
I love the way you put that. And it's a necessary stepping stone, right?
Yeah.
Like playing at Wrigley Field, no notes. Playing at Oracle Park, no notes, minus my McCovey Cove collaboration that I'm on. Tamerra, Griffin, thank you so much for excellent reporting this weekend, and thanks for popping on. Before we get out of here, make sure you are subscribed to Fulltime wherever you get your podcasts, and go follow the show as well for all of our extra videos, interview snippets on social media at TA Fulltime on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And in case you didn't know, The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free best-in-class coverage of women's sports. So go check out the Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. I'm Jillian Sakovits. Thank you, as always, for listening to Fulltime Review. And remember, our podcast does not happen without our producer, Theo Lloyd Hughes, our video producer, Leah Griffin, and our executive producer, Emily Olson. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.